Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny show after the game that so many of you have been waiting for. I know that it's the game I've been waiting for. This, to me, is, we had a conversation a couple games back when they played the Buffalo Sabres. And yeah, I know I took a lot of heat from a lot of people. So many messages from people who were trying to tell me that was just like a masterpiece of a game played between two masterpiece teams, and people who argued vehemently against my take of the Buffalo Sabres and where they were, and that the Winnipeg Jets squeezed out a game over a team that was walking wounded, and people sending me messages about how great they were, that the 7-game losing streak they're on is calling and would like to have a conversation with you. Everyone then that, like, again, I have those nights on this show and people get really mad because I don't see it the same way, that, oh, it's 2 points, it's a confidence builder, all of these kind of things. I'm not surprised that after the Winnipeg Jets play that game against Buffalo, even if it ends up in a temporary bump, and maybe it was a bump, they were playing the worst team in the league against the Chicago Blackhawks to win the next one, but then they revert to a game that does not get a lot done for them against the Columbus Blue Jackets. This, like, if you want me here to like join the chorus and say, oh, that's a great game for building confidence and getting things going, here, let's all join the chorus together now, that there's a game where you can actually say that for a specific reason, not just because you're hopeful, not just because it's wishful thinking, because the Jets go out and start doing the things that make them a great hockey team and showing out in that manner. And this tonight is one of those games. And it's not because they win 8-1. Adam Lowry in the dressing room afterwards had talked about score effects and that game just kind of going in a different direction, goals going in from every which way. It's not necessarily to me that it's 8-1, although them getting a bunch of goals, I think, does matter from different lines, does matter. Everything about that game to me is well played. The first 10 minutes are a little bit, I was starting to think, okay, the Winnipeg Jets are heading down the same road that they've been going down. And then after 10 minutes, to me, this is the most important thing I saw in this game. 10-minute mark, around that time there, I believe the Jets are getting outshot. It's like 8-4 or something like that. And then all of a sudden the Winnipeg Jets just say, you know what? Enough of this. Remember how we used to just make it so teams could not get through the neutral zone? Let's do that. Let's do that again. And they went out and they did that. And the Boston Bruins had absolutely zero flow to their game from that point on. Basically spent their time dumping pucks into the Winnipeg Jets zone, trying to chase down those pucks, not able to get to those pucks because the Winnipeg Jets had the neutral zone so tied up that you just couldn't get through there with any kind of speed to try and track down the Jets defensemen. Jets defensemen were getting to the puck. They had lots of time to do something with it. They were transitioning that puck up the ice, and because they were able to do it so cleanly, and because now the Boston Bruins, being held up in the neutral zone, are getting caught in no man's land as they try and forecheck the Winnipeg Jets. If the Jets defense can make a pass out of the zone, which they did over and over and over again tonight, you're catching that Boston Bruins player, those forecheckers, going the wrong direction. Now the Winnipeg Jets have the puck. They've got it with speed heading down the ice. They don't have to worry about back pressure from players coming back because those players have been caught going in the wrong direction, because they're just, the Winnipeg Jets just entirely put the green light on for their players tonight. It's like driving down Route 90 and getting green light after green light after green light after green light, whereas the Boston Bruins were heading down Pembina Highway and they were getting nothing but yellows and nothing but reds at every single turn. And that's the game that the Winnipeg Jets created. One thing I really like about this game is there was a couple shifts early on that the first line had got sewn up in their own zone, and you were starting to think, okay, is this another night where one of those things happened? And then complete and total reversal, and that line starts going to work, starts having some confidence, starts doing things well, and then clearly it's ending up on the scoreboard. But they didn't stop. Once they got rolling, They didn't stop. And I don't know if you heard me on CJOB before the game. Always do a segment where Kelly Moore asks you, who are the players you have to watch. I'd said I wanted to watch the battle between the two defensive stars from these two teams. Josh Morrissey on one side, Charlie McAvoy on the other side. Team USA, Team Canada. I've been going through the two rosters, and the one thing that I've seen from those two rosters is people who are trying to tell me that the U.S. roster is more skilled than the Canadian roster. I went through this exercise. Go player by player by player. Take their top player, put them against Connor McDavid. No, Connor McDavid's got the edge. Take their next best player, put him beside Nathan MacKinnon. Nathan MacKinnon has the edge. Take the next player, put him beside Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby has the edge. The Canadians have the number one goal scorer right now in Reinhart. Like, you can do this over and over again. And I would suggest you get to a place where if you're going to put up a guy like Josh Morrissey against a guy like Charlie McAvoy, I think the Canadians have the advantage. So I was interested in watching how that played out on this night. Charlie McAvoy takes a bunch of penalties that ends up hurting his team. Josh Morrissey is just on point all night long, moving the puck, defending really well. But if you're looking for four nations kind of connections into this whole thing, well, how about, the competition for the crease in the Americans' net? No competition there. Now, I will say this. I think this is one of these nights where the Jets were just so tidy. I don't know that Connor Hellebuyck was that challenged on this night, although there's, for me specifically, a very, very specific case of the keg save of the game. I won't get into it, but I think it turned the game. That'll give you a hint because of what happens shortly after he makes the save. But on this night, if you're stacking up any kind of competition there, it doesn't exist. The Jets, not MTS, Canada Life Center chants are back with the third string, U.S. third string, I think was the chant that was going on, which was absolutely dead on. There was, not a good night for Jeremy Swayman. But for Four Nations tie-ins on this night, I think, hands down, I don't think he got the most points in the game. Hands down, to me, Mark Scheifele is the best player on the ice in this game for the not just for the Winnipeg Jets, but all around. And you're talking about having Brad Marchand on the other side of the ice, a guy who was like given the golden ticket, Willy Wonka golden ticket to Team Canada a long time ago. Don Sweeney, part of the selection committee. This, to me, was a revenge game for Mark Scheifele, where he put on display all the things that he is capable of doing, and that Team Canada is going to miss out on. I was wrong. That when I said Mark Scheifele was going to be on that team, I, to this point, do not think I was wrong in that Mark Scheifele should be on that team. I think tonight was a very, very good example of a player going out of his way to show. I mean, remember there would be some, I think it's happened for the vast majority of games that the Winnipeg Jets have faced Paul Maurice and the Florida Panthers. Mark Scheifele usually shows out in those games. He showed out in the second half of the back-to-back against Paul Maurice's team. This is one of those things. If I'm Mark Scheifele, I'm capturing the whole revenge game kind of feeling. You know how Michael Jordan, when he played, he said that he kind of had to take exception about something. And other players who, when they played against him, you'll hear all these stories. You see them on the internet all the time. Gary Payton would talk about guys who would have to guard him, would say, basically, just leave him alone. Be nice to him, and he'll only score 30 on you. Trash talk him, he's going to put 50 on you or something like that. And he knew that about himself. So what he'd do is he'd kind of go and manufacture these reasons to feel slighted, to feel pissed off at the opposition or a specific guy on the opposition. He'd convince himself that that guy had disrespected him, and, well, he's going to go out and do that. Mark Scheifele needs to do that, because revenge Mark Scheifele seems to very much be the very best version of Mark Scheifele, because he even acknowledged, now this wasn't a go out of your way to be like, yeah, I went to stick it to the guys who didn't take me there. But he acknowledged that he knew that, a GM from the selection committee was there in that game, and he went and showed out in that. Hey, everyone needs their motivation. You'll see some guys seem to be able to get it done in career years, but I'll say it again. Revenge Mark Scheifele seems to be the very, very best version of Mark Scheifele. I want to see more, and I want to see more. And after that, I want to see some more after that. But back to the whole idea of the Winnipeg Jets trying to build something here. I'll go back again to that game against the so if we go way back, okay, we're going to go way back to around the time that the Jets I think it was they had a win against Pittsburgh, because they went 3-7 at some point or something like that. But the Jets' last 2 wins to me, one is against the last place team in the league. One is against a team that is an absolute free fall right now and spending its time trying to put out garbage fires. The win before that came against a Minnesota Wild team where the Jets did not look good. Connor Hellebuck looked phenomenal. But you want to start putting some games out that you can say, there's the game, right? And again, that's why I'm not high on the Buffalo game, and everyone was pissed off at me because I was saying it, but it's too bad. That's what I saw. It's not a game that you look and say, okay, this is the way. This is where we follow. This is the blueprint. Let's get this down. The Winnipeg Jets, in my mind, had not had one of those games since way back in mid-November, and that was the bounce back game against the Florida Panthers. Okay. So this to me is where you go, right? And I'm not saying they didn't play some good hockey. Like I said, and if you go back and look at our shows, I didn't mind their game against LA. I didn't mind their game against Vegas. Those are games where they're competing against clearly very good teams, but I just don't think that they were getting to that version of themselves that they could look and say, okay, this is the version we need to be. This is that version. This is the Winnipeg Jets that I have been waiting for. I know a lot of you are just going to take whatever version gets 2 points, whether they get outshot 31-5 and Connor Hellebuck steals the game. That's what you're looking for. That's not what I'm into. I'm looking for the Winnipeg Jets to find their way back to being the team that was dominant at the beginning of the season. And this is the best example that we have of that Winnipeg Jets team for a long time. And a good time to get there, because the next challenge coming in is a team that I think, if the Winnipeg Jets can carry this kind of game in and go toe-to-toe with the Vegas Golden Knights and come out with a win against a team that just has had the Winnipeg Jets number for a really, really long time, that's the kind of thing that can actually snap you back in to doing what you were doing and not being this show up some nights, not show up some nights. The path to consistency, I think the Jets gave themselves a fast forward card here tonight, but it doesn't mean anything if they don't follow it up. But if they are able to follow it up in their next game, I personally think that the Winnipeg Jets are back. Good tap dancing, folks. Ken is finally going to sit down and join the show. Who loves you? Renny does. Kenny, I'm not sure. Good to see that he's finally showed up here, folks. Time to bring in the man with the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny. Kenny, I'm looking down here. I've got a hole in my tap dancing shoes because you left me doing this for so long here. Good to see you here. I'm just going to give a shout out to the way that you're looking. This is an era piece. Kenny and I both got this right around the same time when these were just like the height of fashion, and they remain absolutely on brand to this day, of course, because Vittorio Rossi gives you those timeless looks, which Ken and I are both rocking here tonight. We did that by heading on down to Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue. Walking in, we loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent us, even though we are Kenny and Renny, and we ask for Frankie and the boys. They do us up right. So if you're looking for that timeless look, you got to head down and do the same thing. Ken, pristine roofing wake-up call clearly had by the Winnipeg Jets on this night. Mark Scheifele took the pristine roofing wake-up call and huffed on them like they're smelling salts, woke up and went absolutely crazy. So let's give the pristine roofing shout out to him. And hey, if you're that means it's time to give North End Rick the pristine roofing wake-up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy to call for all your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing themselves at 1-204-237-7663. Get them down there. You won't be sorry. Kind of like the Canada maybe. Team Canada maybe sorry, or Don Sweeney at least maybe sorry that he had to take the brunt of Mark Scheifele not making the Four Nations Cup here. But other than that, Ken, and that, what'd you see in that game here tonight?
Yeah, impressive. I mean, we've been waiting for a template type of game here for quite some time for the Winnipeg Jets, and they got most of their elements taken care of, right? Starting off with the top line needing to respond to a tough go against the Columbus Blue Jackets, 2 third-period goals against at 5-on-5, and then another into the empty net, which again, that's neither here nor there, but they were rolling, they were snapping the puck around and creating all kinds of opportunities. Didn't have a ton of those shifts where they get hemmed in their own zone. I thought they were really skating well. On the power play, which needed to elevate after going 1 for 19 or 2 for 19, 1 for 17, 2 for 19, 3 for 6 today. That was impressive. And natural stat trick will say that the high dangers were heavily tilted, but I don't know. Is this one of those days, Sean, where I don't know? There was definitely some score effects that Adam Lowry mentioned, but I didn't see the barrage. I thought that Connor Hellebuyck made some important saves for sure, but to me, this wasn't a game that I'm not sure if you're Joe Sacco, you're going into the room and saying you got goalied in this one, Sean. Are you? I mean, I did not see it that way.
No.
So this is one of those games where the statistics can be a little deceiving, and Winnipeg Gabriel Vivaldi says the Bruins were poor. They were certainly not on their game. No one is suggesting
this wasn't their best, but nothing can be taken away from the Jets on this.
No, and I mean, this is we've been having a debate. Jets got to beat a good team. Haven't beat as many good teams lately. Well, they beat a team that was 7-2 in their last 9 since Joe Sacco took over, and now some of the argument is, well, some people in the Bruins saying, oh, well, they've only beaten one team above the playoff line in that stretch. Well, you got to beat the teams that you're playing, and they had been playing quite well going into this. Again, it's not time to plan the parade or anything. We know that the Jets smoked the Bruins last year in December when they rolled in one of their last game before the Christmas break, and then Boston got them back up at their place, a month or whatever later on. So, tempered emotion, but I would say that the Jets, this was, as you mentioned, I mean, this is the type of game. If you're Scott O'Neill and you're the coaching staff, and if you're the team looking to find some consistency after a tough stretch of time, this was it. This is the blueprint for the Winnipeg Jets. They did a lot of impressive things, and they will, try to build on that against a team, as you mentioned. Like Vegas has owned the Jets. I think 11 of their last 12 they've won. So head-to-head counting the playoffs. So important step forward, but as you mentioned, I mean, for the Jets here, this is the week they're supposed to be getting rid of the energy deficit. You're in your own bed. You got a 4-game homestand. You're playing a couple really good teams in this stretch. Then see what happens as you try to push your way towards the break. I mean, Jets had all of their lines going, Sean. I think this was one of the more important things for me in this game. One of the biggest things we've mentioned lately. When the Jets were winning, they had, 3 and 4 lines going at the same time. In the last little stretch where they went 3 and 7, they usually only had 1 or 2 lines going in those games. And today I thought all 4 lines were largely effective. Power play did an impressive job, and, overall they were solid. I mean, I'm not going to knock a penalty kill on a Pasternak one-timer. That to me is not a poorly structured penalty kill.
Yeah. Ken, sorry, I just need to interrupt you. I'm going to ask you because my computer's about to die and I need to get a computer cable here.
Go to the buffet. Gotcha.
But just I want you to get going on.
Is this a competition? Is this a competition now? I see if I can go for 13 minutes.
Well, there you go. Let's go. You get ready. But I just let's talk about the power play. Talk about what you thought went well.
Sure.
You thought the Jets kind of unlocked.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of, Scott O'Neill used the word verbiage. They got back to the attack mentality, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play. So what I saw is a little bit better puck movement again. And Jets were looking for shots earlier in the sequence. So to me, that was a big difference in terms of what they were doing well on this evening against the Bruins team that special teams has certainly not been their forte this year on some fronts, but Jets needed to get back to snapping it around. And it's funny, their first power play goal is delivered by Vladislav Nemesnikov. We talked so much about how the second unit has been an important part of this phase. And, to me, that second unit gets 2 of the 3 power play markers, and they get them, going to the hard areas. Alex Iafallo, high tip of the Neil Pionk shot. You got Nemesnikov going to the back post. Pionk unloads from the point. It goes off the end boards. Niederreiter tips it over, hits the post. Nemesnikov jumps on it, scores his first in 10 games, snapping the 9-game goalless drought. He'd only had 1 assist in his previous 7 games. That was his only point. Again, he's a guy that contributes beyond the score sheet, but it was important for Nemesnikov after moving back to center ice to get going on the power play. So, and then the goal from Scheifele, just absolute beautiful, just a beautiful play coming out of the 4-on-4. Josh Morrissey makes just an absolutely absurd cross ice pass, and Scheifele absolutely hammers home the one-timer. And we've debated and talked a lot about Mark Scheifele working his way through an upper body injury, and that was affecting his shot. That was. It seems as though he's feeling a little better. Not only is he taking all of his draws, he's banging home one-timers like he was before the injury occurred. So saw a lot of important things from the Jets on the man advantage. They needed to get going. They had dipped to 3rd in the NHL. And again, perspective is important here. 3rd in the NHL is a pretty impressive number for a team that was in the bottom 3rd last year, even though they've gone through a bit of a cold patch here since Nikolai Ehlers has been out of the lineup. And do the Jets miss Ehlers on that first unit? Of course. They miss him immensely, but that's, and Cole Perfetti was doing a really nice job on that second unit. I think he's getting more and more comfortable in that pop position in the high slot. But again, impressive that the Jets second unit was really able to get going here in this game with 2 of their own. And we've mentioned how even when the Jets were having the top power play in the entire league, they've had both units going, and that continued. So that was certainly an important development for the Jets. And, I was mentioning before I transitioned, I mean, some people were sending me notes saying, oh, how can Dylan DeMello leave David Pasternak open? I mean, it's a 5-on-4. So obviously you're cheating over Pasternak's way, but one of the things that Pasternak does incredibly well is go to a position that doesn't look as dangerous for some, but is dangerous for him because of his ability to shoot the puck. So, he absolutely rips one home. I know there's been some debate that maybe it hit DeMello's stick. I think his stick was certainly in the area, but I think that the puck went over DeMello's stick and just went, bar down, an absolute rocket of a shot. But again, Pasternak, as Adam Lowry told us all in the morning skate when I asked him about him, one of the best and purest goal scorers in the NHL. He also has he has the vision and passing ability, but I mean, this guy really can shoot the puck. So impressed by what he was able to do on that shot, but overall, I wouldn't say that was a, poor effort from the Jets penalty kill. So special teams was obviously an area where the Jets did a nice job with, and it's an area that they needed to enhance their game. And I would say that today was also a big step for them on that front. So interesting game all around. And I mean, we're going to get into some of the other stuff as we move along here when Sean gets back. But while we're waiting, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to our main man, Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty. If you have realty needs you'd like to have met, give Lou a call at 204-791-9971 or at the office 204-989-5000. His email is lou@loufurlan.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Furlan, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including our podcast. Had a great chat with Sweet Lou this afternoon. And again, if you have realty needs you'd like to have met, make sure you're giving Sweet Lou a call and tell him Kenny and Renny sent you.
Right. What did you just finish with the power play?
I finished with the power play, and I gave Sweet Lou a quick shout out while you were getting back in business.
Well, that was nice of you. And Sweet Lou is very deserving of that.
Indeed, so yes. I mentioned that I spoke with him this afternoon. So yes, he's
excellent
excited.
Stuff.
He's enjoying the season.
Excellent stuff. That was a little.
Give your 2 cents on the. Give your 2 cents.
Before I do, that was a little slice of heaven for all the Renny haters out there and the Kenny acolytes. They finally had the show that they've been looking for. So mark that, folks. I can't remember what time I dropped out of there, but that was your Shangri-La there, folks.
Oh well,
a little moment of time. I'm back to ruin, and I'm back to ruin.
I'm back. I'm glad you're here, buddy. I'm glad you're here.
That was early Christmas for some folks out there.
Oh, Eric, happy to. Hey, Eric Jorleifson was happy to take your seat. Sorry.
There you go. You know what? He's always such a nice guy to me, but in a moment, he's
next man up mentality, buddy. Next man up
over
mentality.
My dead body and just
next
walk right
up.
in there.
Get the next player ready.
All right. Well, hey, some people love that. Some people are going to love this because it's been called for, folks. Jefferson Peters says, now that the man is here, humble headband request. Love it. Let's make it a Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny show, folks. Time to hear the music. All right, Ken, what I like is it started out the first power play was stanky. Yep. It was all kinds of stanky, and it looked like things weren't going to be a good thing. And what got it going, of course, it's the second power play unit. And what happens on that goal, it's just kind of back to the simple, get the puck to the front of the net kind of mentality, right? So Neil Pionk, I believe it is, takes a shot. It goes off the backboards. It comes out into the front where you get a guy like Nino Niederreiter, who is the perfect person to have in front of the net for the just get it to the front of the net type crowd. And what I love there is it's kind of like he's just getting his body in front of it, kind of getting his leg out and just trying to get it towards the net. Off the post, Vladdy Nemestikov is there to pop in. And I think that mindset just kind of started things going for the Winnipeg Jets. But the thing about that too that we don't talk enough about is when you kind of get that mindset of getting it to the front of the net, that's what you have to, you force the opposition team to defend that. They have to get back to the home plate. They have to get back to the front of the net. And now they need to defend the house because you've shown that you're going to go to the front of the house and you're just going to get there. But if you go and you do that, then what that does is you back those defensemen in, and now all those passing lanes that Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor and Gabe Vilardi love to take advantage of. All he says, power play always looks better when they move their legs too, not just the puck. But now all of a sudden, because you are crushing the front of the net, it opens up all those passing lanes that Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, Gabe Vilardi are so good at exploiting. Now they've done it over the last number of games, but they really, really unlock it tonight, and that's part of it, right? That's part of the idea that if you're going to get to the front of the net and force the Bruins to defend that spot, it opens up the rest of the ice where those guys are dangerous. So I'm all for it. I'm all for the way that they unlocked things here tonight. I'm for the Jets kind of opening up in the way that they did. It's interesting because I'm all about Mark Scheifele and his game here tonight. I think he was the best player in the game. He's not going to get my my TCB though. And there's a play here that I absolutely love. That's a little foreshadowing. there,
Is
folks,
that so?
is what we're talking about there. But Ken, should we get to, because it could be a long conversation, maybe let's get to the rough stuff and have that conversation. Give me your take on where things kind of, sorry,
I'll
what's
just
that?
go here. So Elias McCracken, any update on the Gus bus? He okay? Well, I asked Scott O'Neill if he had a concussion, and he was not certain on that front. He said he had a big gash that was getting sewn up. So what we know is there are stitches required from either the blow or the visor hitting or whatever it was. So that's all we know right now, and we'll have a better idea at the practice tomorrow. But certainly didn't look good. He had to be helped off the ice, and yeah, I mean, it was certainly a tough situation. Sorry, go. What did you ask me about the fight? Sorry.
Well, I let's just go in that direction because
Sure.
clearly, okay, let me set the table for I think most people saw it, but let's set the table here. Okay, Jets are pumping the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins are a big, rugged, tough team. They're a little bit of a throwback team, no doubt, and throwback teams back in the day. It's interesting. Someone sent me, oh my goodness, it was a playoff series between the Vancouver Canucks and the Detroit Red Wings, and Todd Bertuzzi, all of 247 pounds of him, absolutely destroys Chris Chelios. And the stuff that goes on around there, like at some point, Brendan Shanahan just finds him and just, when no one's looking, slashes him in the face. And Bertuzzi just kind of goes through it like you kind of forget just how gladiator like hockey was back in the day and how tough you had to be to survive that. No wonder players were just so big. But the Boston Bruins, really, really big team, a little bit of a throwback. I wasn't surprised. Some people were messaging me, seemed like they were surprised that the game went here. I don't think you have a team like that with players like that. You start running up the score in a game like that, the way that ended up happening with the Jets, where you don't have some kind of response from that team. The advantage tonight clearly was on the sticks of the Winnipeg Jets and their ability to put it into the back of the net. But the Boston Bruins know they have an advantage when it comes to size and plied that. But clearly the way they did so was not something that Scott Arniel appreciated. It wasn't something that Adam Lowry appreciated. What's your take on how that was done? And was there a foul to be had, or was there a foul taken in your mind by the Boston Bruins?
Well, the foul that I see is fairly simple. I mean, I've got no problem with Trent Frederick want to try to do something and show pushback and get into a tilt. But if you've been in 38 fights in the NHL in your career, as Trent Frederick has, you've got a pretty idea who's available on the other team for the dance. And I don't. Again, I'm not saying that he's attacking a harmless player here or helpless player. What I am saying is that, it's one of those situations where you should probably find someone in your weight class. If you're Trent Frederick, would be my issue with what transpired. And, some people will say, well, if you're David Gustafsson, why don't you just say pass in that situation? Here's the thing. If you're battling to stay in the lineup and you're trying to show value added to both your teammates and the coaching staff who is responsible for putting you into the lineup, you don't want to look like you are backing down. So it's one of those situations where, his teammates will applaud him for the courage he showed, even though he came out on the other end of the tilt. So anyways, do I think he was, I don't know. I don't like the fight I don't like the fact when a guy that has 38 fights goes after somebody who has 0 personally. But again, Trent Frederick is a pretty honest player, and I don't think he was looking for the smallest guy on the ice. Now, part of the problem is that this is what I would say in a normal circumstance, if that happens, someone else who is more experienced in the art of dropping the mitts would say, "No, Trent, you're going with me." But it's not really. And I'm not saying these other guys aren't willing, but Alex Iafallo is not an experienced pugilist, and neither is Morgan Barron. So it's not a situation where someone else, like, let's just put it this way. If it happens when Adam Lowry is on the ice, Lowry's saying to Trent Frederick, no, 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 you go with me. You're not going with him. But there really weren't, there weren't any other guys that were a natural opponent for him in that scenario. So I don't know. I mean, Logan Stanley can't probably chase him, even though Stanley got into a fight with Mark Kastelik afterward to try to calm things down. I'm just not sure that. And I'd like to watch it again, Sean. Quite frankly, I don't think that Frederick necessarily. I don't think he jumped him or anything. I just think that he went after a guy who just was not an unsuspecting opponent, but someone who shouldn't be taking that fight probably. But I understand completely why David took the fight. He wants to show that he's willing to stand up for himself, and he did. It just had tough circumstances for him, and I'll be shocked if he's not concussed. Again, we don't know it, but Sean, what we did see is, at least I saw, two guys had to help him off the ice. So I can't imagine that it was, yes, we know that he was bleeding and there was a cut, but when you have to get helped off the ice, generally speaking, it's not good. So anyways, what happened afterward? I mean, you understand why Adam Lowry, he said his teammates or his line mates told him not to bother, but he felt he needed to settle the game down, and that's what happened afterwards. So, I mean, it's another example of leadership by Adam Lowry, and I think it probably, based on some of the barking that was going on between the benches, Adam wished that he had been on the ice for that shift, I guess is how I would put it, rather than seeing Gustafsson get KO'd.
So I love his response, and he did exactly what he said he was trying to do. He slowed down the tone in that game. He fights Nikita Zadorov. If you watch that fight with Nikita Zadorov, Adam Lowry, and you should want this to happen if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan, takes very good care to go out and make sure that he's taking care of himself in that fight. So he's sending a message, but he's not putting himself in danger. If you notice the way that he fights, he's not trying to get a knockout. He's not really trying to land any big shots. He's going in, he's trying to land a couple here or there, but he's keeping his head way, way back to a point that he's not going to take a fight, right? So he's basically going in and he's fighting for a draw, but he's going to go fight big Nikita Zadorov to send a message that I'll take on your biggest guy, blah, blah. That's what he's trying to say there. He's fighting for a draw, right? Kostelik going after Stanley, I think was a little bit more. Kostelik wanted the heat, no doubt. Yeah. I think he started getting the advantage at some point in that fight, and Stanley gets down at that point. I think it's a good time for Stanley to get down there. I give, Kostelik gets the takedown, so he probably gets a little bit of an edge there. But the long and the short of it, Ken, is I take a look at those fights, and those are draws, and okay, if you're a team and you've got an advantage right now, the Jets have the advantage in the scoring and they run it up. Okay. And they go nuts on it. They run it up. If you're the Boston Bruins, I don't agree that it's incumbent upon them to head out and send their guys to go get in a fight where they're going to get a draw. Because if you go fight Adam Lowry's going to get 6'5" on the other side of you, and he's going to get his head out there, and you're probably just going to get into a dust up, and that's it. I don't think that accomplishes anything. So, and listen, I'm going somewhere with this in a place where I think that there's a message out of here that the Winnipeg Jets need to take. Everyone out there who's been questioning why Logan Stanley's in the lineup, this is why he's in the lineup for nights like this. Because what happens to the Winnipeg Jets if Logan Stanley isn't there? And now it's just, if we're saying that Gustafsson should not be put into situations where he's fighting like this, and Logan Stanley is in the lineup, what happens in that game when Adam Lowry is your own line of defense? What I'm saying here is there's a marked advantage here for the Boston Bruins. And I'm sorry, you're not going to like me saying this, but I think it's the exact opposite situation last year when the Jets kept bullying and knowingly bullied, and conversations I had with Jets players knowingly bullied the Minnesota Wild and had their way with his star player. Jets fans loved it when that was happening. It's not incumbent upon the Boston Bruins to make sure that they take, because if it's not Gus and if it's not anyone else, you've got a couple choices. You've got 6'7" or 6'8" Logan Stanley, or you've got 6'5" Adam Lowry. Two guys who are going to get you on the end of your hand, and it's going to be a little bit of a dust fest. It's going to be a draw, and that's going to be it. Now, give credit where it's due. Frederick doesn't, to your point, and you touched on this, but hey, the Bruins could have handled this by running around the ice and trying to put Josh Morrissey through the boards. They could have handled it by going after the top line that was running up the score. Who do you want Trent Frederick to fight in this situation when he's out on the ice like that. Like, unless Logan Stanley is going to run over, he didn't go after Alex Iafallo. He didn't go after, someone on the second line. He's not trying to beat on Nemesnikov or guys like this. He goes for 6'2", 195-pound David Gustafsson. So is this guy a good fighter? No doubt he is. I don't know that he knows how good of a fighter David Gustafsson is, but it's not like he goes and picks on he's not going after Neil Pionk or Ville Heinola. He's going out and they're pressing the advantage they have in it. I don't think, Ken, I disagree with you right now. I know where you're going with it. I don't think it's incumbent on the Boston Bruins to go out and say, we're going to get in a fight that's a nothing fight. They've got a marked edge, and the Jets are pressing their edge in that game. They're pressing it back. Hockey's been like this forever. It's moving away from that. But honestly, I don't. Yeah, sorry. The issue that you think it is.
Sorry, Trent Fredericks fought lots of tough guys and done very well against them. I could not disagree with you more. He knows that David Gustafsson is not a fighter. I'm not saying he knows that he has zero fights, but fighters watch other guys fight, and I think he's got to do a better job of choosing his opponent. And again,
why?
Why?
Yeah,
because he's a tough guy, and a tough guy's job is to fight other tough guys. You don't go after guys who don't fight unless the guy is warranted being chased after.
What are they trying to accomplish in that moment, Ken? Are they trying to just go in to get into a fight and have like a neutral fight, or are they trying to press the edge that they have in that situation?
I'm aware that you are in way more fights than I am, than I ever was in junior, but I don't agree with the premise at all. Sure, you want to win your fight, of course, but what are you accomplishing if you fight? You had 38 and the other guy is 0.
Well, they're heading out and they're trying to bully the guy
against a guy who's never fought.
They're trying to bully. They're trying to press their edge.
Right. So what the response is now, a Jets guy's going to go after a guy from the Bruins that has 0 fights, even if he's 6'2". I mean,
who's going to though?
It's a danger.
I love that
you're
going here because
someone should go after McAvoy. A guy from the Jets who has 40 fights.
But you're not saying McAvoy? But you're talking about a star player. That's
Frederick's not
a
fourth line player. He's a third line guy who plays on the second line.
You used McAvoy as an example. They didn't go send out and try to take a star. They went after, honestly, outside of Stanley, outside of Lowry, who's
John
the next
Beaker.
guy?
I don't know.
Ken, who's the next guy they could go to on the? You are completely and totally missing my point here.
I'm not.
This is a wake up. You are completely missing the point. This is a wake up call for the Jets. The Logan Stanley is in the lineup because of this situation, but in this situation, if you've got no one else to fight,
guy on the ice, so he did his job.
And then so did Adam Lowry, and they're still dance partners. There were still guys who could go out from that Boston Bruins team. It's not incumbent upon the Boston Bruins to say, well, they don't have a tough lineup, so I guess we should just stop bullying them. The whole point of going and icing a big, strong lineup is that you can go press that edge and lean on guys. This is how hockey's been forever. So this is my point. It's not incumbent upon a team to walk in and be like, well, there's actually only 2 guys on the Jets we can fight, because everyone else on their team can't fight and they ice a small team. And so really all we can do is fight these 2 guys and everyone else has to be left alone. Like when this has been hockey for a million years. Now, I know we're moving away from that, but this is my point about the Bruins. They're a throwback team. So if they're going to go bully you, bullies don't stop and say, okay, well, we're just going to stop at this guy and this guy. If you've got a decided edge and size on that team, you're going to go out and you're going to press that edge. That's what they did here.
Yeah. So my counter to that is that someone with 0 fights, and that is a tough guy.
Gets it. ESH figured it out what I was trying to say.
Trent Frederick can fight guys who are fighters. If you want to prove a point to your new head coach and you've had 0 fights, then you go after Gustafsson. I don't know. I'm just not, I don't think it's okay. But again, your argument is, what are the Jets going to do about it? So
exactly.
They stood up for themselves in the moment, and that's what they can do. But I mean, are the Jets going to change to have 3 guys that can throw them on the fourth line instead of 3 guys that are going to be, potentially double-digit goal scorers? I mean, I don't think that it's incumbent upon them to, add 3 guys that have 10 to 20 fights. I mean, again, I want this noted. I mean, when there were rumors about Mark Scheifele moving to the Boston Bruins,
I was calling for Trent Frederic to be in part of the deal because he's the kind of player that would fit perfectly with the Jets for sure.
Exactly.
Which is my point.
Now we're getting on the same side of the ice here.
Trent doesn't have to prove a point to anyone, and he doesn't have to fight.
He's not trying to prove a point. He's not proving a point.
Of course he is. He's trying to bully him, so that's proving a point.
How's that proving a point? Well, he's going. So
I one-punched a guy who's never fought. Congratulations. Do you think guys around the league go out and say, Trent's, oh, you just showed me how tough you are. You punched a Swede who's never fought? I mean, come on. I mean,
that's not what he's trying to do.
Of course
he's just trying to engage with someone on the other team to bully. So is it incumbent upon them to be like, well, we can't fight anyone on this team because they're not tough. So let's let them win 14-0 or
then
whatever.
Why aren't there 10 fights in every blowout game then? I mean, that's
well, there used to be. And not every game
not for a long time. Not since the Jets have been back in the league.
Well, have you been
anyway, sorry.
Bruins games?
I like watching the Bruins. I got
this
no
is my
problem
point.
with
This
the way
is
that
the
they
kind
play.
of team that they have. This is what they try to do.
Right. And so when's the last time somebody who gets into lots of fights fought somebody with no fights or very few fights? I mean, I don't think that that's very common. Kastelik knows who he's looking for on the ice. I just want to put it this way. I think Frederic should know a little better in terms of who's in the weight classes. But anyways, and also too, and I didn't see this, but
he threw out an offer and I think he knows he's probably got the advantage there. I don't think he thinks that he's going to one punch the guy.
Well, and he also, and again, I'd like to see it again, but I got a note saying that he also punched him on the way down, which, as you know, as someone who got into lots of fights, is not exactly, again, for an honorable fighter, that's not something that you like to see. Anyways, that's my last point.
Okay, that's fine. And this will be my last point. All I'm saying is I don't think this is him going out and trying to violate the code.
Well, I agree.
I think it's him going out and trying to say, let's press our edge on a team that you can't press the edge with without dropping down a weight class because they don't have the guys to run in a game like that. And this to me is the point. The Winnipeg Jet and Ken, listen, you can say all you want about this. We know this. We know from conversations that have happened in the room that there's a feeling inside the Jets locker room that they're vulnerable to stuff like this. We know, we've said it a million times on this show, Logan Stanley gets the opportunities he does in the lineup for exactly this. The Jets plan as best as they can for this situation, and it keeps Logan Stanley in the lineup a long time, which is a conversation running on in our show for a long, long time because people don't think he's playing up to the standard. But he's here for this exact situation. When you run out of guys who can defend in that situation, like don't act like the Jets don't plan for this situation. So if you can't plan enough to run with a team like that, this is my point. Like maybe this is a time where the Jets look and say, maybe we need to go and add some guys towards the playoffs who give us a little bit of a tougher team. People can get as mad as they want. I don't know how many of the people who are getting mad are the same people who are saying the Jets need to get bigger and the Jets need to get stronger. This is the point I take away from that the Winnipeg Jets were vulnerable on this night and not able to push back. And so they needed to rely on Trent Frederic saying, well, this guy doesn't have enough fights, so I guess we'll just back down. We won't take this game into the alley because these guys aren't tough enough to go in the alley with us.
Sorry, there was enough time that he could have found a more willing combatant.
Who?
Stanley was on the ice.
And then who does Kostela go afterwards?
Well, he can wait for his turn or what. Anyways, let's move on.
Think about what you're saying.
I am thinking. I did notice it.
Stanley comes out of the box, so do it again and wait for the two guys on the Jets who can handle.
Come on, Sean. It would be like Lowry going after Morgan Geekie or something like that. And I'm no knock on Geekie. I just don't think that he's fought a whole lot.
I know that it's a mismatch. I'm saying when you've got like 5 guys on the Bruins who can fight and they want to drag it into you have to find willing combatants. And if the willing combatants aren't up to your level, then that's where you go. Anyways, we'll move on from this. Well, where do you want to go from this? Because we gotta move.
Not sure. Wherever you tell me to go.
Well, I know where I'm going to go. Right now, we're going to go to Kenny's Ice Cold Take, and I'm going to invite you over to my house right now if you can make it to this side of the town and hop in the Arctic Spa.
Good stuff.
Because there's no such thing as a ice cold take like that in an Arctic Spa's hot tub, especially one with the Spa Boy package. So you know what you need to do. Come on over, Ken. It's not too late. You could use this before the next show anyways, for sure. Get rid of those icy cold takes, and you can do that by either coming over to Renny's place or you can head on down to Arctic Spas and talk to my boy Dustin, and he'll set you up in the Arctic Spas hot tub that does everything shy of being Kenny's hot tub time machine out there.
Here, quick one. Do you think that the Bruins were pissed off about the Stanley hit on Pasternak in the first period? And would that have anything to do with what happened in terms of the game's temperature going up?
Yeah. Yes. So, like, now is it one of these things where it's like, I think we've both made the point. Like, I just think that this is the long and the short of this. And I actually thought that Adam Lowry's voice was the best on this. He thought it was a little bit of a 50-50 thing. He thought Trent Frederic should have been like not gone in that direction, but he also thinks David Gustafsson shouldn't have gone there as well. To me, I think the Bruins took the game in a direction that the Bruins want to do in a situation like that. And you have to be aware of that and their ability to do that. And the Winnipeg Jets response, I think, was a great response, as good a response as it could have been. I kind of think these teams did the two things that you would have expected them to do in a situation like this. I know when you're on one side of it and your guy gets hurt, you're thinking like you don't like the way it turned out, but this is the same chat room that was entirely fine with Brendan Dillon cross-checking Kirill Kaprizov and breaking his rib and thinking that was normal and that the Minnesota Wild's response to that was too much, right? And there's an argument that it is. Like, it got dragged down into the alley after that, and Hartman's stuff is absolutely like a joke and whatever. But this is the stuff that starts up when you go into these directions. This is why people out there want fighting out of the game entirely, because it gets to be so many gray area. You could tell Trent Frederic in the box was talking to Adam Lowry and being like, I don't understand what you're so mad about, right? Like, there was a conversation that was happening, but I get it. If I'm Adam Lowry and that happens on my team, I want my captain to respond exactly the way Adam Lowry did there. I just think that if you're the Boston Bruins, I don't think you're walking away from this game and being like, yeah, man, we shouldn't have done that, or we really screwed up. I think the Boston Bruins are entirely okay with what they did. I think Boston Bruins fans are okay with what they did. And I think the rest of the players and teams around the league are completely and totally neutral on this.
Quick one here. BA split when... Oh, never mind. Sorry. When 27 is back, what do the lines look like?
Yeah.
We'll worry about
We
that
don't have
when
time
we
to
know he's
go
back.
there. Go to the
Ehlers at
John
least
Stewart
out
coverage play of the game.
before. Ehlers, we're not. I'm not expecting him back before the weekend. The earliest would be Montreal, and I doubt that. Earliest would be the California trip for me.
Okay. Let's do Chibi quick. Let's do Chibi quick.
No, let's do it after. We'll do.
Okay, fine. Johnson Group got you covered. Play of the game. What do you got?
There was something that happened. There was a Neil Pionk blocked shot, I think, when the game was still close. I thought there was an important play by Pionk that I had marked down. That's what I'm going with. Do you have some bet? You may have something better.
No. I'm really focusing in on Lamplighter and the keg here. So we'll take that, Ken. But you're gonna have to give me a second here. Can you expand on your play just to make sure people know what you were specifically referring to?
I'm gonna say this. Adam Lowry had his team covered. Instead of a blank, the one simple play. I mean, Adam Lowry showing leadership and dropping the gloves and calming the game down when things went sort of haywire. So
he did everything he was supposed to do. I love the way Adam Lowry handles this. To be honest with you, I don't know that there's a guy in the league who handles those things in the manner that he does, in a way that is as successful as he does. I mean, you go back to you go back to the times that he's done this in the past, even the fallout that happened after all the Minnesota Wild stuff. Like, at every single point, Adam Lowry is just handling these things with aplomb. He gets it. I get why he's pissed. I totally understand why he's pissed. I also get the reaction from the Boston Bruins in this situation. Anyways, that is our Johnson Group got you covered play of the game. Do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. And that brings us to our TCB Lamplighter of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Oh, you go first. You said you got it ready. You go first.
So this play I love. So the goal that happens. One of the things the Jets I talked about that they do really well is when they get down in a game, they don't do hope plays. They don't throw the puck. They're pretty good at, coming back and trying to get back in the right way. The Gabe Vilardi goal starts with a Boston Bruins player behind the net, throwing it blind away into the slot where it's a turnover and it gets onto the stick of Kyle Connor. Kyle Connor leads the 3-on-1 down the ice. Now, this is just one of those simple plays that I love it when guys do this. But if you go back and you watch the rebound or the replay of this play, Kyle Connor drops it to Gabe Vilardi and then skates straight into the chest of the defender and keeps skating forward. What he does in that situation is he just creates not just a lane, but all kinds of time. The defender cannot get to him. He's giving Gabe Vilardi all the time in the world to pick a spot to shoot, and he puts it into the back of the net. This is the kind of play that usually power forwards are the ones that do. This, to me, is just a sign of Kyle Connor. Like, Kyle Connor usually gets things done with his brain. He gets it done with his quick hands. He gets it done with his quick shot. This is one of those things where he just goes and he's grinding. Like, this is that get to the front of the net mentality, and that you're just, I'm going to overpower this guy in this situation. I love that play. I love that the most skilled guy on your team is pulling off maybe the grittiest play involved with a goal in this, outside of Nino Niederreiter standing in front and redirecting that. It's just a mindset that I think it opens up Kyle Connor to kind of doing everything. Love that play. For me, that's the TCB lamplighter.
Right on. We're going to go with the same.
You got it? Okay, good enough.
We're going to agree on something today.
Well, it's about time.
We've agreed on a few things.
You came to the, maybe you did. I still see the background. I thought maybe you jumped into the Arctic Spas hot tub in the backyard for a second there. That's Ken's and my lamplighter. Doesn't matter though. Share with us your TCB lamplighter. Automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you your frosty, delicious 8-pack, why don't you go on down to 11290 Kenniston, join them in their tap room where you can buy your own, or you can get some blueberry or any of their great beers. A great selection of Christmas beers on right now, and as always, great food down there. That brings us to our winner, and it pains me to have to announce this, but T-Will is the winner of our TCB lamplighter. So you know what to do. T-Will, direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name, Terwilliger. Send me your email. I will send you a voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. It is the nectar of the gods. Ken, that brings us to your keg save of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm hesitant to use this one because it was one of the rare times when Connor Hellebuyck was actually out of position, but he was still positioned well enough to keep the puck out of the net on that crazy chance for Mark McLaughlin in the first period, Sean, where it looked like he had half the net. And it's easy to say that McLaughlin shot it into him. Sure, I can live with that argument, but the goalie's job is to stop the puck. So his body was in a position where he made the save. It didn't have to be acrobatic. It didn't have to be nuts. It didn't have to be anything other than he had his pad in the right spot and he made the save. And on a night where he only faced 24 shots, that was one of those timely saves, Sean, where the save kind of helped get them going. I mean, there was another one on Koepke there also. That would be my honorable, on Cole Koepke. That would be my honorable mention, but I'm going with the Hellebuyck on McLaughlin, even though there were several interesting ones in the game.
Okay. Now, is that a pad save that you're talking about? I can't remember which player it was.
Was that crazy? Sorry, it was in front of the net there where McLaughlin was. It was the puck came from the right wing side. It went squirted out to the left wing side, and McLaughlin's right shot that had the chance, and it looked like he had an open net. And Hellebuyck was kind of turned sideways, but he still got his pad out.
So it's not the same one for me because it's Zadorov, but this is when it's 4-on-4.
Sure,
Zadorov gets the puck in the front of the net, and he's got all kinds of time, skates into it. Connor Hellebuyck just comes out huge on the challenge, just makes himself big, and then beyond that, when he does make the save, he just heads out and stops it with his blocker, and it looks like he is near board in the situation.
That's a good one.
Is how just kind of on top of it he is. Really, really impressed by that save. It's one of those ones that you go back and it's Connor Hellebuck being Connor Hellebuck. It's Connor Hellebuck making difficult things look easy. Like you said, it's one of these nights where I don't think that he was overly challenged, but at the same time, it's one of these times where that play is probably a goal. I mean, it sure looks like it's going to be a goal on Jeremy Swayman, the way that Swayman is playing in that game. But it's one of these things where, we're sitting there and we're thinking that maybe, just maybe, Connor Hellebuck hasn't been overly challenged in that game. But in the times that he was challenged, he's just so stoic, so kind of on top of everything that it looks easy. So that's my and the other part about this, I said that I was going to say something about it. The puck goes down to the other direction. Josh Morrissey finds Mark Scheifele as the guy gets out of the box, and it's a power play. Boom, it's in the back of the net. That goes from being a 2-1 game to a 3-0 game at that point. So great play by Connor Hellebuck. That's my hashtag the keg save of the game. Doesn't matter what I think. Share with us your hashtag save of the game. You're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Like Greg Friesen is going to get a chance to do, because Greg Friesen, you have won the hashtag the keg save of the game. You know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name, send me your email, and I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. Okay, let's do Chibrikov before we go. And I will do this before we get into Chibrikov. Let's say that a lot of people, I think it opened up a couple of eyes when Brad Lambert was taken out of the line and Nikita Chibrikov was put in. I'll get into why. Well, I'll just say it quick. I think the Jets needed to get a more direct game going. Chibrikov right now plays a more direct game than Brad Lambert does. So I think putting him in was kind of a little bit of a nod to that. You want to get like players going to the front of the net? Well, you go get the kind of players who make their bread and butter at the front of the net. But either way, I think it really paid off to put Chibrikov in. And if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. Okay, what's your thoughts on Chibrikov?
Yeah, I loved his game. I mean, the thing with Chibrikov is always going to be surrounded around pace, and he obviously doesn't skate the way that Brad Lambert does in terms of, explosiveness and kind of game-breaking, electrifying speed, but he does have that ability to get his nose to the net, and man, can he shoot the puck, as he showed on that turnover before his goal. That's absolute rooftop special. That's a high-end shot right there, Sean. 4 hits in the game for Chibrikov, 2 shots on goal, 2 more shot attempts for 4 total. I like the way that he moved on the ice. I liked how involved he was. 18 shifts for 13:28. He did have 317. Oh, hang on. 317 of power play time, and that's an impressive number for a guy playing his first game of the year and just his second NHL game in total. Speaking of Lowry, he made a crack and made a little bit of a joke, which is also true, saying that Chibrikov. He was happy to see Chibrikov get one so that he could keep his goal streak going for the second game in the NHL. But I think that he's the kind of guy that. He can easily become a fan favorite because of how involved he is, how he gets his nose dirty. He's a little ball of energy, makes a lot of things happen. And if he can just keep working on that, just adding a little bit more on the speed side. I mean, he's got a lot of elements. He can really shoot. He gets involved physically, goes to the hard areas, very cerebral, smart player. And I think he fit really well in that line with Nemesnikov and Perfetti today. And I like him on the half wall, on the power play also. I mean, this is a guy that has some, we've liked his potential from the very beginning, Sean, and both you and I agree that, when the pace got higher, Chibrikov's game kind of tailed off a bit, even though he still had a strong training camp overall. He showed really well that he can handle the pace. Again, he's not a burner, but he can handle himself in the pace of play. And, we know the Jets wanted to get a look at both players, and, Chibrikov took advantage of his opportunity, and, he's going to earn another few looks here until Ehlers is ready, and then we'll see what happens from there. But very important first step for Chibrikov for me. And
for him to stay in a top 6-ish role. He has to do those things all the time. You play on adrenaline in the first one, but he also said he was ready. I love the way he handled his media in the morning, Sean. I'm ready. It's not like this guy wasn't overwhelmed by the stage, and he showed that he was ready to roll. And again, as a young player, now it's about stacking games and trying to be consistent. And if you get your nose dirty all the time, we know Scott Arniel is a fan of his game, and if you work hard and can produce, coaches often find a way for you. Again, I think it'll be challenging for him to be a regular this year, Sean, but it won't be. By next year, he'll be a regular for sure for me. And he has the type of game that can change a lot of minds if he can stack games like that. Because as Snackatoba said, Chibi's game looks like a playoff style game, and that's 100% accurate.
So at the beginning of the year, remember, people were really, really upset when Lambert and Chibrikov got sent down, and before the Jets. I mean,
you're on this from the beginning, Sean. You've been on this from the beginning.
Yeah, well, and the funny part about it is like it's almost hard to remember that happened because the Jets came out, started winning after that, and then that erased all that, right? Like all these people who thought, that these coaches don't know what they're doing, and this organization is messing up their young players, and all this kind of stuff as the Jets go out and have one of the greatest starts in NHL history. I did say at the beginning of the year that this would be, I said early in training camp, I thought that this was the kind of year that the Jets were going to transition into the kind of team that rather than graduating guys from the fourth line up the lineup when people were hurt, and then bringing guys like AJF and Toninato and guys like that. Like it's there at the stage now where it's like you lose a guy in the top six, you grab a top six guy from the Moose and you bring him up and you give him a shot. Lambert had that shot, and here's the deal: the NHL. And we've had these conversations for a long time, and T. Will, the winner of our TCB, led the charge on why not give 20 games to Ville Heinola to see if he can make it work, and it should be all about like trying to bring that guy along. That's not how it works in this league unless you're a bottom feeder. So if you're the Anaheim Ducks right now, or if you're the Chicago Blackhawks, and even the Chicago Blackhawks aren't doing it as much, but those are the kind of teams where winning and losing doesn't matter as much. So you can bring guys in and give them an addition and try and get their feet underneath them. The Jets aren't in a place like that, especially the way that they've been playing the last little while, Ken, right? They'd gone, what was it, 2-5 in their last 7 before this game here tonight. They need results. So part of this is like, it's great. The Jets have graduated to the stage where they're this team that Nikolai Ehlers goes down, Brad Lambert can come in, or Nikita Chibrikov can come in. That's great. But it doesn't mean that those guys just get in and then you just leave it alone, because guys like Alex Iafallo are capable. And if he moves up there, well, then you go grab a fourth line guy like AJF or Toninato, and then you bring them up, right? You still have to produce. And so Lambert, I thought he had a good tryout. I thought he looked pretty good. But what this team needed right now was a player to give it a spark. Now, let's be honest with ourselves. Chibrikov scores tonight, but it's not like they needed him to create that spark. But he did draw a penalty early on in the game, right? Goes out and he gets a goal. The one thing that he's done here tonight is, in a time where the Winnipeg Jets needed to have a good game, he came up and he contributed to a really good game for the Winnipeg Jets and earned his ice time. I, like you, love this guy's attitude. The way he kind of handles and controls himself is the way that I see this guy making it, just because simply he's the kind of guy who has the attitude that gets him over the top. So this is a great showing for him. I think this is one of these things now, if you're Brad Lambert and you're taking a look back, you take a look and you see Nikita Chibrikov. Disgruntled Wheat says Chibrikov gives off Brendan Gallagher vibes.
That's a big compliment.
It's a huge compliment. I don't know that I quite see it, but smaller player, grittier, yes. But like, he's like, when Gallagher came into the league, he like popped right off the bat. It was insanely not quite there. I'm not agreeing with it. But back to what I was saying here. You need to, if you're going to be one of these guys now who comes up into the top 6, you have to come and you have to contribute. That's how it goes. Like Ken says, he's going to be here in the future. We know that that's going to happen. But if you want to be the player of right now, you have to capitalize on the opportunities that are in front of you right now. Chibrikov goes out and does that. Great game for him. interested to see how he does going forward, if he can keep going, especially as the games get, next game's tougher for sure. Anyways, that's
And
it.
how about
for us.
Chibrikov for Scorpions on the goal song? Good,
Oh, yeah,
good
someone
life
said,
choices. Good
I
life
know.
choices.
I know. I'm sitting. The one thing that I have to say is, like, the vast majority of the goal songs, a lot of people are into them. I remember people really liked Pierre-Luc Dubois' "Ooh Ah Hey Baby" song. That's not my jam. You and I were like 80s kind of metal heads, guys. Ken, I'm looking into the best thing that's had my next in line. Bruce Springsteen was my next in line for the next concert I had to see. The next concert I have to see, which I've been trying to see for 20 years, which I've talked about here, System of a Down just announced a three-city tour. 3-city tour. They're going to New York, they're going to Chicago, they're going to Toronto. I'm going to one of those shows. I like my rock. So when Rocky Like a Hurricane
They're
came
great
on,
live,
I
buddy.
was
They're
like,
great live.
hey, I don't need to see this guy's game to know that I like the cut of his jib. That's the kind of song that I want to hear after a goal is scored. Anyways, that's it for us here. We got to get going. We're going to be back on Thursday to do it all over again after a really, really important game. I'm fascinated to see how this goes now that the Winnipeg Jets kind of reappeared in this game here tonight. Going to have that conversation at the time. And if you appreciate the conversations happening in this place, in this space, please, I implore you to appreciate our sponsors who help fight to keep the conversation going in this space. First, that's Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou, Arctic Spas, Johnston Group, TCB, and The Keg. Thank you to them. Thank you to everyone else out here. I wanted to bring this up here, Ken, because like I was saying, there are some people who were, I'm sure, very, very happy. I don't think I can find it. I'm not going to find it. It's too late. And I shouldn't end the show that way anyway. That's it for us. We will see you guys on Thursday. Bye-bye.